You know the vibes. Welcome back to another episode of the Hoop Genius podcast brought to you by NBA 2K24. Now, today is a Friday. Usually, we have our very good friend, Mr. Scott Perry, joining us on Mondays, but this is the Christmas preview episode. We had to bring the family all together today for this one. So, Mr. Scott Perry is back with us, as well as three-time NBA champion BJ Armstrong. How you guys both doing?
Doing fantastic, Mo. Glad to be here right
In,
before the holidays,
in the
man.
holiday spirit, huh?
Yeah, and the holiday spirit for sure.
Well, let's dive straight into it and let's see if your New York Knicks are going to be in a holiday spirit as they are kicking off the NBA Christmas Day schedule against the Milwaukee Bucks. That's going to be a tough matchup at Madison Square Garden. You know the fans are going to be up for it. BJ and I discussed very briefly yesterday Mitchell Robinson now being out for the rest of the season. That's obviously a huge impact, especially against a team like Milwaukee with a player like Giannis who loves to attack at the hoop and the presence that Mitchell Robinson had at the basket. And more importantly, I think his presence on the rebounding side of things. How do you look at the matchup tomorrow from the Knicks perspective for Christmas Day? Sorry.
Mo, BJ, that was a huge blow losing Mitchell Robinson. He is the anchor of that defense. He cleans up so many of the mistakes that may occur out on the perimeter. He can clean those up. And then on the offensive end, as you mentioned, he gets them so many second possessions. He's the best offensive rebounder in the NBA today. Milwaukee has the one thing that can hurt the Knicks in this game, and that's the size. You mentioned Giannis, obviously, attacking the rim, and he's fantastic at that. But Brook Lopez, and he was always a handful for Mitchell. Now with no Mitchell in there, he can really do some damage on the interior at both sides. We know he can step away from the basket now and shoot threes, but also he's going to be able to help Milwaukee get extra possessions on that offensive glass as well. So I think it's going to be a tough matchup. I know the Garden will be rocking though. Those Christmas Day games in New York, they're so much fun to be a part of. The entire city gets behind it. The players really get up to play that game. So you're going to get a great effort from the Knicks, but the size component in that game, I think, tilts heavily towards the Bucks.
BJ, these Christmas Day matchups, do the players have a little something extra because they know it's on national TV? They know everyone's watching. And also this one has a little bit, maybe more of an edge as it was the quarterfinal of the in-season tournament, right? Where the Bucks beat the Knicks in their last matchup. Do you think that the Knicks have got this one circled and they really want to go and make a huge impression, or do they just want to get the game out of the way and go home and carve that turkey?
Well, a lot of times what I found personally was I love to play on the road during the holidays because of for the most part, you're going to be with your family. If you have young kids, and you try to make this as normal as possible. Those games are normally starting on the East Coast around noon or so, and it just makes it difficult. It's very disruptive in a way for a family setting. So I always found it better for me, or at least to have as normal as possible. I get it. I'm entertaining people at home as they're doing their holiday, celebration or what have you. I just found it to be very disruptive, especially when I played at home. Do I think players get up? I think you're just trying to get through it. That's how I always kind of found it. You wanted to remain and be professional. However, you can't eat properly because you have a game to play, right? I can't just go and get my second helping of turkey mode knowing that I got a game to run up and down. I can't get, I got to get my nap. I got to get my things, your kids, your family, your significant other. Most of the time, my parents if I was at home, they would come up because they knew they weren't going to see me, so forth and so on. So I always found it to be kind of one of those things that you just made the best of it during that time. And if you were at home most of the time, you would celebrate when you got back after the game. So, but it's fun. I mean, listen, now I can't wait. I kind of manage my day, or my wife is kind enough to let me manage the day and knowing what time is this game going? We try to kind of go around it. She gives me a little leeway, the family will. So But it's fun. I think for the most part, you enjoy it. However, I think truth be told, most people probably would want to be at home if they're on the road, and then they probably want to spend at least that one day out of a year where it's just kind of for children and young people and the significance of what the holidays mean to you during this time.
That second helping of turkey for BJ didn't help him guard Isaiah Thomas anymore.
No, it
So
didn't help
that's
at
what he
all.
said. Exactly. Exactly.
Hey, the stuffing wasn't good.
Exactly.
She would be like, "How's the stuffing, honey?" And you'd be like, "No, I can't have any stuffing right now." So absolutely.
Scott, we know the NBA is a year-round business. Are you looking forward to Christmas a little bit more this year, knowing that you don't have to be, working and scouting and all of that stuff like you have been for the last 23 years?
It's going to be different for me, Mo. I don't really know what to expect yet because I've been in such a rhythm of working on that day. So to be able to kind of sit back and enjoy all the basketball that day and not have the nerves, if you will, of watching your team play and your the happiness for the remainder of your day being dependent upon a win or a loss. So this would be a little bit of a new experience for me. But just the same, I still call myself working because I got to be watching these games and being prepared to be on here with you and BJ on the Hoop Genius and being prepared for my job with ESPN too. So different kind of work this time. Different kind of work.
Well, we spoke about Milwaukee earlier this week and how we think that they can get better as the season progresses, as they get more comfortable with their unit. But I just want to circle back to the Knicks a little bit because although they have lost Mitchell Robinson, I think when it comes to big men coming off the bench and, those backup bigs, I think Isaiah Hartenstein is one of the best players in the league at filling that role. Do you think that he can provide them with what they need to maintain what they've been building throughout this season? Or do you think they're going to look to add another extra body? Because they applied for the disabled player exception. Do you think there's anyone on their radar that they're going to be looking to bring in as well to bolster that front court?
I'm sure they're going to look around to see what may be available because Jericho Sims, who they had been starting here the last, number of games once Mitchell got hurt, he hurt his ankle, I believe, and he's going to be out for an extended period of time as well. I think that Coach Thibodeau and the team would like to continue having Isaiah Hartenstein coming off the bench. That's where he's most effective with that second unit, playing against second unit guys. Now to put him in the starting lineup, where there's a different group he's playing with for the most part, and trying to find that rhythm. And he's going to be playing more against the starting caliber centers, more minutes. That will be something different for him. Isaiah's a young kid that plays really hard. So he obviously is going to give you the energy that you want. But it's different. And BJ can tell you a lot about that. It is different going from being a high level role player off the bench to becoming a full-time starter. So I'm sure there's going to be, I'm sure there's internal concerns about that, but we'll see what happens here. But you got to favor Milwaukee, like I said, heavily in that matchup on the interior to start that game.
Well, I saw recently the Knicks picked up Taj Gibson here recently, and in the last game versus Brooklyn, Taj was the backup center and Isaiah Hartenstein was the starting center. I think what you're going to start seeing is I think the Knicks will probably go small and really incorporate and adapt small ball as part of their game plan moving forward, meaning not playing without a center, because Mitchell Robinson really provided them shot blocking interior defense that I don't think there's anyone on the roster that can replace currently on their roster. So with that, I think they will probably just go small. DiVincenzo, Hart, Brunson, of course, Julius Randle, RJ. I think they will probably rely heavily on those guys to play predominantly most of those minutes and really kind of do a plug and play system. I mean, quickly and these guys, They're fantastic at playing. But I think as teams begin to become familiar with their personnel, I think you're going to see probably the hole that's missing, which is if you go big versus the Knicks, that's going to cause them some problems. And I'm not sure how they will counter that, right? Will Isaiah be a 30-plus minute guy? Will Taj Gibson fill in? I'm sure they'll probably look to fill that in with a bigger athlete. However, I think right now missing Mitchell Robinson long term is going to pose some problems for them, especially when they play against the bigger, more athletic teams in this league.
Man,
There's no
a
question
shout out
about
to
that. No
Taj
question
Gibson
about
as well.
that.
38 years old, coming back
Yeah,
into
no,
the
it's-
NBA. That's
yeah.
no easy feat.
Yeah, Todd is going to give you the smarts, and he obviously is extremely familiar with Tibbs. And Tibbs that's a security blanket for Tibbs. But Todd is 38, and he's undersized for the center position as well. So but maybe they look to start him to keep, like I mentioned before, to even start him at some point and keep Isaiah coming off the bench and just extend his minutes coming off the bench. So we'll want to see that, because I know. And it's no secret, ever since really Tibbs has been coaching in the league, rim protection is huge and very important to him. And that guy he had in the middle, Mitchell Robinson, for the last few years, did it as well as any big man in the league.
So are you both looking at this as a road win for the Milwaukee Bucks then?
Oh, I think you've got to favor the Bucks coming into this. Again, the Knicks will have a lot of emotional energy coming into this, but I think the Bucks are 8-2 in the last 10 games, won 5 straight. They're starting to play better. They're still not where they need to be defensively, but I think they're trending in the right direction. And the Knicks, are coming off a solid West Coast trip without Mitchell, and won some big games out there. So I don't think it's going to be a runaway by any means. I expect it to be a very close game come Christmas Day.
Now, the next game is a treat for European fans, because usually they have to wait till 3 a.m. to watch the Denver Nuggets playing basketball, but instead they're tipping off at 7:30 UK time, and they're hosting the Golden State Warriors. Now, the Warriors will be without Draymond Green, who's going to be out for a few more weeks with his, they're calling it a recovery. From hitting people in the face. I don't know if that's much of a recovery, but the Warriors picked up a great win.
Reflection, Mo.
Yeah,
I think
it's some self-reflection, some meditation,
Exactly.
find some inner peace. The Warriors picked up a great win against the Celtics. Do you think that they have a chance of picking up a win here on Christmas Day against the Denver Nuggets?
And that's in Denver, correct?
Yep, that's right, in the Ball Arena.
Yeah, that's a tough. It's going to be tough again because of the size factor. Who do they have that's going to match up with Nikola Jokic? But look, most teams are asking. Pretty much every team in the league asks that. Who's going to match up with Nikola Jokic? But I think it starts there. I will give Golden State this. I think they're winners of 3 straight here. The urgency that they're playing with, Klay Thompson is starting to, starting to play again like we know Klay Thompson can play. Andrew Wiggins, with him coming off the bench now, has increased his urgency and his productivity. So you never count a championship group out of a game like that. But I think that Denver now that Murray's back in the lineup as well, and they're starting to gain some rhythm. The group that won the title last year, they're at home at Christmas. I've got to favor Denver in that game.
I think it'd be a nice welcome to the league moment for was it Trace Jackson Davis, the 57th pick that the Warriors picked
from
up.
Indiana.
He made a great impact against the Boston Celtics. But Nikola Jokic, that's a whole nother beast. BJ, what's the game plan coming into the Denver Nuggets arena? The defending champions obviously have a dominant big. You've got a much smaller lineup. What's the Warriors' game plan here?
Well, guys, I got to tell a quick story here. Yesterday, Scott, all of the kids are home from college, and our youngest and Olivia, my daughter, the middle, and my youngest were watching the Golden State Celtics game. And my youngest is always doing something. He's doing something. He's playing video games, whatever. But for whatever reason, he and Olivia were watching that game, and it goes into overtime. So, but they were both just watching the game, and they were like cheering for Golden State, both of them. So the next day, our youngest, Julian, he goes, "Hey, Dad, why does that one player do this?"
night celebration.
If I say something bad right now, anything about the Warriors, I will be in trouble. So the Warriors, they are our favorite team now. I mean, now the fact that
now Uncle Mo's gonna have to come pay a visit,
yes,
bro.
An 8-year-old kid now started to ask me and his mother, "What does this mean?" So for the last 2 or 3 days, he just walks around the house doing this. Okay, when he wins and plays any video game, he starts doing this now.
Goodness.
So I got to go with the Warriors. I got to go with the Warriors now. You know, I'm not going to say this loud. I think the Nuggets are going to win. However, the Warriors now can do no wrong in my house. So I am a Warriors fan. Steph Curry has another fan. Now I got to buy T-shirts and everything again. So, you know, between my kids, my wife, the Warriors have won the championship this year. It doesn't matter what happens from here on out.
that performance by Steph Curry was unbelievable, especially
it was unreal.
That one shot he had in the closing moments where it was he missed the layup, then relocates back to the 3-point line, and Chris Paul finds him, and the quickness of that release off balance as well, unbelievable. And his age, we always talk about LeBron and his age, but now we've got guys like Steph Curry and Kevin Durant who also are like 35, 36, still playing at a superstar level, which is, LeBron gets all the attention for it. But if it wasn't for LeBron, you got Steph Curry playing like this at 35. I don't know how many point guards we've seen still playing at this level at 35 years old, which is simply superhuman.
When you can shoot the ball from the parking lot like he can.
You know something about that.
Scott's trying to get a 10-day.
Exactly. When you can shoot, hey, he's going to be able to play till he's 40.
Scott's trying to get a 10-day. He's trying to say, I can still shoot the ball. Put me in, coach. Put me in. But it should be a routine win for the Denver Nuggets there over in Denver. We'll have to see how that goes. But then the big matchup of the day, the historic rivalry, the greatest franchise in the history of the NBA and the wannabe greatest franchise in the NBA, the Celtics and the Lakers going head to head.
We should let you take this, Mo. This is your time. Exactly.
Mo, I want to let Mo take this.
Yeah,
absolutely.
The Celtics have always done a great job against the Lakers in recent years, but I think the Lakers are winning this matchup. I think Christmas Day, LeBron don't know how many more Christmases he's going to play. He's going to have this one circled. The Celtics on a 5-game West Coast road trip now. They had that tough loss against Golden State in overtime, but then they did go into Sacramento and destroy the Kings, but that was without Jason Tatum, who twisted his ankle against Golden State. I don't know how that's going to be feeling for Christmas Day. What I will say to give you guys a little exclusive preview is if Jason Tatum plays, you've got to keep an eye on the shoes he's wearing. He's got a surprise in store for you guys. So shout out to the Jordan brand. But no, I think that the Lakers take this purely because I think it's going to be a close game, and the Celtics execution down the stretch in close games is absolutely horrendous. We saw it earlier this season against the Timberwolves. We saw it against the Golden State Warriors. And if the Lakers can stay close, I simply don't trust the Celtics offense late in games. There's too much over-reliance on shooting the 3-point ball. I think the Lakers have got good defenders on their roster that can make life difficult for players like Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. So I think, as much as it hurts me to say this, I think the Lakers are going to take the win in this one. What do you guys think?
Well, I'm going to say this real quick before throwing this to Scott. I think the Celtics are going to win, not for the reasons you said, Mo, but because the Lakers are on a tough schedule going out east. They lost last night to, I believe, the Chicago Bulls.
Yep.
and then they have to come home, regroup, do the holiday thing, kids and all that. I think that's a tough swing for them. I think the Celtics are playing this smart with Jason Tatum. You know, he did come back in the Warriors game. And then you're kind of sitting him out because you don't want an ankle sprain, as Scott can attest. You don't want that thing to linger. You know, groins and ankle sprains, they can linger if you play through them. So you give him a little rest. But he does have, let's say, partners that he and the Celtics and television, they got to do what they got to do there. And it's be good to have him as healthy as they possibly can for that game.
You got to play Christmas Day.
Yeah, you got to play. So I think the Celtics are in good position here. That was a nice win. I expected the Sacramento to beat them yesterday, but give them credit. They played terrific. Porzingis and Jaylen Brown and all those guys. So, but I think the Lakers are in a tough stretch right now. And I expect the Celtics to come out and maybe I don't think this will be a traditional battle because of the toughness of the Celtics. Sometimes you'll catch somebody on the schedule, and I think for the Celtics right now, they're going to catch them on a good turn of the schedule or event for them in this game.
You know how I look at this one, coming out of the in-season tournament, I think the Lakers have lost, 4 or 5, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
You wonder, and I know I've heard BJ say this, because none of us knew what was going to happen after that tournament, where we really witnessed some high-level playoff intensity.
Yes.
For a week there, early in the season. Mm-hmm. So none of us knew how either of these teams would respond. You know, and I think Indiana, they won one coming back, but then they lost a few and came back to win last night. But neither team has been quite the same. Now, look, teams always, can hit laws in a long 82-game season. So given that, I'm going to give a slight edge to the Celtics as well. I do think Jason Tatum will be ready and available. That bounce back win against Sacramento, because look, Sacramento is no slouch. They're a legit playoff team. To go win there was a hard place to win. Yeah, I know they got beat by Golden State, but their starting 5 is as good as any starting 5 in the NBA, in my opinion. That being the Celtics. I just think that they'll be a little better. I am a little concerned about the Celtics bench, the depth of their bench, going forward. That would be my biggest concern with that basketball team. I expect LeBron, obviously, to show up, as you mentioned, Mo. Look, this is going to be his, you never know how many Christmas Day games he has left. So, that these kind of touch point moments are always big for him, just like the in-season tournament was, Christmas Day game, again, national TV audience, so he obviously will be tuned in to play that well. Anthony Davis, I give him credit. He's continued to try, play like he played during that in-season tournament. But just something tells me the way the two teams are playing overall right now, I'm going to get a slight edge to the Celtics that day.
Does it not infuriate you to watch the Celtics and their complete insistence on doing nothing but just shooting 3-pointer after 3-pointer after 3-pointer? Because it's killing me.
Right. You sound like a true Celtics fan.
Did you see that possession down the stretch against the Warriors? They got like 4 offensive rebounds and 4 missed threes off the offensive rebounds. What are we doing here? Take a layup.
Look, my thing about shooting threes, I want my team to shoot the best available shot on that night. Some nights it may be 40 to 50 threes. Other nights it might only be 30. And to your point, I've never been a fan of teams setting a set number of 3-point shots that we need to shoot before any particular game, because you don't know what's going to present itself that night in the game. What the defense is going to do. I want to get good quality shots. So, I didn't see the end of that game, Mo, but were they contested threes? That's my big. If they're open threes, I'm fine with it.
Half
But
of
when
them
you
are
start
open,
shoot, when you
half of them are
start shooting the
contested.
when you start shooting the step asides and the step back threes, and you got a lot of time on the clock, those aren't good value shots in my opinion. And
Well, I mean,
so,
I saw a young man, Scott Perry. He was shooting them. I know the defense was. Wait a minute. Hey, hold
I'm
on.
contradicting myself.
20 Mo. 20 Mo. Mo. I saw this. I saw a young Scott Perry was shooting
EJ
this.
bringing
We didn't even
receipts.
know. I don't even know what the. We didn't even know what he was doing. It was like, why is he stepping to the side? You know,
Exactly.
we,
But I must admit, I didn't know any better when I was that age. But he's talking about when I'm
yeah,
17 years old. I
yeah.
didn't know any
You know,
better. But
there was.
the Scott Perry today, I would like to think, that I wouldn't take some of those shots now.
Hey, Mo, the great Boston Celtic legend credited a Detroit player named Terry Durod with
Oh
teaching him
yeah.
to step back.
Mhm.
But what they didn't know is that Parking Lot Perry was shooting the side step before we knew what it was. So
Wow.
one was stepping back, and then the other guy was
Okay.
stepping to the side. So this new thing that you see in the NBA, we saw that early in Detroit.
But just to go back to what Scott says about a certain amount of 3-pointers going up after that loss against the Warriors, Coach Mazzulla came out and said he was happy with the process. The shots just didn't fall. But in my head, the Warriors are a very small team. Steph Curry was on about 5 fouls for like the whole fourth quarter. It was working in the first half, going inside and getting easy looks in the paint. Why go away from that just because you want to hit a quota of 3-pointers put up? I thought it was ridiculous. And then every time they posted up Steph Curry in the fourth, they were coming double, which is great. Come on, double.
Yeah, right.
We'll play out the double team. Someone cut, move the ball, X, Y, Z.
Absolutely.
Instead, the Celtics just said, "Oh, they're double teaming. We're just going to stand on the perimeter and shoot threes now instead." And I just don't understand the logic and the instruction to the players in terms of the game plan over there, because that was a very winnable game. They had a huge lead, and there's absolutely no way that they should have lost that. But maybe it's just a psychological thing since that final series over there in Golden State. That the Warriors just seem to have their number ever since. But hopefully it's a better performance for the Celtics because I don't want them to ruin my Christmas. Luckily, that game is 10 p.m. here in the UK and it will finish about 1 a.m. So everyone else should be asleep so that they don't see my rage if the Celtics lose.
Yeah. There used to be a team back in the day that would play kind of a different brand of basketball. It was Golden State Warriors, coached by Don Nelson. And Don Nelson would do things to really disrupt your offensive game. And he would put his worst defensive player on your best offensive player to disrupt your offense. Because if you weren't a principal team, but more importantly, as Scott can attest to, you have to be a disciplined team to the principles in which you abide by. When you have a player that's in foul trouble and everyone was aware, it can be very disruptive because everyone now wants to take advantage of that. And Steph Curry knew that. They're not going to just blatantly foul out Steph Curry during the course of that game.
Right.
But then you also get the other team trying to play out of character. And that's what happened with the Boston Celtics that night. It's very important as you're making a championship run to be able to dictate the shot that you want, which Scott alluded to earlier here. Take the best available shot because the defense, more times than not, will have to make some adjustment, and then the ball should find the open man. Right now, I'm a little concerned with the offensive principles of the Celtics because they've committed to just shooting shots, whether they're open or not. At least that's what it appears to be on the outside. I'm not there in practice. I don't know this for sure, but it's very hard, as our good friend Larry Brown would say, when you start coaching like a video game and you're just coaching to the math of the game and not actually watching the game, you always get in trouble there. And right now, I'm not criticizing the coaches and what they're doing, but clearly, if you have a team that you're playing against that doesn't have shot blockers or rim protection, you would think that that would be one of the things that you want to do because a form of penetration through the dribble should allow you to get that open three that Scott just said, and many of us who
Mhm.
play the game. You have to be disciplined when you're playing against a team when you have an advantage, especially on the post or any player that gives you an advantage. That's the part of being a championship caliber team, which the Celtics, that's their goal this year. I mean, no question about it.
Let me add a point to, when you talk about, shooting for, numbers, playing to get a set number of threes and everything. One thing that numbers can't take into account is the psychology of the game, what is going on during the game. And BJ can definitely attest to this. If I'm on defense and I'm guarding an offensive team that is really good at moving the basketball, cutting without the basketball, and scoring wherever they may score from, whether it's 2-point range, at the rim, or threes, that's deflating to my defense. But if a team is just indiscriminately jacking up a whole bunch of threes because the Mavs says, okay, if I can make more a set number of 3-point shots, I'm going to win a certain amount of games. Well, if that's all that they're doing, I'm as a defense, I say, okay, we'll see about that. I'll take my chances with that, forcing you into contested threes versus getting into the gut of my defense, breaking me down, forcing me to rotate more. Those things are deflating, especially when you're trying to come back in the game. So that's kind of how I see this thing, and it'll be interesting to see how this dynamic plays out in that Lakers Celtic game.
Absolutely. Now, the next game after that is the 76ers, who are traveling to Miami to take on the Heat. Now, I know that the Miami lifestyle can get the better of teams. I don't know the opening hours for the clubs across Christmas, but who you guys got winning that one?
I'm gonna let Coach.
No, exactly.
I mean, the family's at home in Philly. It's Christmas. It's time to celebrate.
Well, I don't know when Philly plays after that or before, because maybe you'll get families that travel down to Miami, because again, nice place for the family to spend time on Christmas is to wake up when it's 75, 80 degrees. So you may get a few more families coming down there from the Sixers. I don't know that, but that's just my guess.
I think that they play on Friday, and then Christmas
so they
Day,
have time.
Monday.
It's Monday, yeah.
So they got the whole weekend.
I could see families, meeting up down there, Saturday, Sunday, spending the weekend and spending Christmas there. But with that said, on to the game. Man, are you guys watching Joel Embiid?
Don't get Mo started. Don't get Mo started.
Exactly. Man, he is a problem right now. And I don't know who can really stop him now. They have a tremendous coach down in Miami. I love the Miami Heat, what they stand for, how they, you're gonna get a very, BJ just talked earlier, you're gonna get a very disciplined effort. And they're going to make you work for everything you get. But I like how the Sixers are playing right now. Joel Embiid is the best player on the floor, for sure, for me. Bam is going to battle him, but he's given up 4 or 5 inches at least, and probably 30, 40 pounds. And this guy is super skilled. So sign me up with the Sixers for a win that day.
I know who can stop Joel Embiid's cup.
Okay, who is that?
The calendar.
The calendar, exactly.
No. Because Joel Embiid
that.
puts up these huge numbers, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then we get to the playoffs and he disappoints season after season after season. You couldn't name to me one signature Joel Embiid game in the NBA playoffs. You couldn't even tell me the best team he's ever eliminated in the NBA playoffs. He finishes in the second round almost every year. And the question is why? And the answer is his over-reliance on free throws, because he's putting up these crazy numbers. Okay, you're right. He's putting up these crazy numbers. Half of those points are coming from the free throw line. Half of these games, the opponent's starting bigs are in foul trouble in the first quarter, and then he's playing against the bench. And also the crazy numbers he put up, I think 2 of the games were against Washington, Detroit, San Antonio, the Charlotte Hornets. So great, the numbers look impressive. And it's fantastic to look at the box score and be like, oh, wow, this guy's putting up historic numbers. But I did a little bit of research. I looked at every MVP season since the year 2000. And I looked at the amount of total points scored by players and how many of those points came from the free throw line. Do you know how many of those players in the last 23 years that have won MVP, how many of those players had 30% or more of their points come from the free throw line?
You tell us, Bo.
Just one. Just Joel Embiid. Just
Joel Embiid.
Joel Embiid. Even James Harden, when people used to get onto him.
He was the person I had in my mind because he went to the line a lot.
People used to get onto him for foul baiting, but even he is not at the 30% mark. It's staggering to me how people are seeing. This is how I know that the fans aren't really watching the games every time, because they just see the stat line. Oh, wow, 40 points. Oh, wow, 50 points. But if 20 of those come from the free throw line, now I get it. Right, I get it. You're using the rules of the game to your advantage, and I respect it. But as a fan of the game of basketball, I hate watching it. I hate watching players that are just digging for fouls more than they are. Did you see the game against the Bulls where he had the chance to hit the game-winning shot, and instead he tries to draw a foul driving to the basket against Kobe White, who's about a foot smaller than him? Instead of finishing strong, he tries to kind of fade away and flop a little bit to try and get foul call. That, for me, is my issue with Joel Embiid. And that's why when it comes to the playoffs and the referees aren't giving those silly little fouls anymore, he never wins.
Mo, I respect that perspective. But we're talking about the Christmas Day game. We're talking about regular season basketball right now.
Oh, absolutely. And that's why I said it's just the calendar that's going to stop us.
Yeah, exactly. Right. But I would not, I love a guy that can get to the free throw line. I really do. I mean, I think there is a skill involved. Now, he is so big, he's hard, people are having to foul him to try to stop him and impede his progress, getting to the rim.
I agree with that, but it's not that he's going hard to the basket and getting it and one. He's getting the defender out of position and then flopping to the floor and flinging the ball in the air. There's a difference between a player like Shaquille O'Neal. Shaquille O'Neal, when he was the MVP of the league in 2000, only 18% of his points came from free throws.
Well, but I would say this though, in that era, they let a lot more contact go in that era when Shaq was playing. Because if they blew the whistle today, I mean back then like they do today, Shaq might have been shooting 40 to 50% of his points. Might have been his line. He's not as good as free throw shooter as Embiid too, which speaks to him. But Shaq was getting fouled on so many plays that, the game would have taken 3.5 hours if you really.
But this is my thing. When people say Embiid is so big and so dominant, they have to foul him. I'm looking at it and I'm like, okay, if we go back and watch all the fouls that are called on Joel Embiid in the game, how many of them are guys absolutely hitting him like they used to hit Shaq because he was unstoppable? And how many of them are he sees a defender's hand sticking out, so he hits himself into the defender's hand and falls to the floor? That's my problem with it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's say this. Joel Embiid, clearly, you can call a foul just about, I've said this to you before, you can call a foul just about any time. He's taking advantage of the rules, right? One thing we know, who've worked in this league, played in this league, watched this league, the players will adjust to the rules and the referees will adjust to the players, okay? Right now, Joel Embiid is a problem. No doubt about it. Whether we like his style of play or what have you, we can debate that. But this young man has found a way to take advantage of the rule of the game. I remember when James Harden, everyone didn't like James Harden's style of play when he was getting fouled. I mean, it's just the style of play. However, the rules and the players will always adjust. That's the beautiful thing about it. And until someone can counter that, then what can we say? I mean, but what we do know, if Joel Embiid, I don't care what era he played in, Joel Embiid would have been a heck of a player in our era too.
Now he would have been wrapped up in bubble wrap and he would have played about 5 games a season. Come on, man. Don't give me that.
No,
don't give me that.
And I'm gonna tell you
but
something
you got to give him the credit that he would have adjusted in that era.
Yeah, absolutely. JoJo got a little nastiness with him. No, I don't. We could say the floppy, we know a difference between a flopper and a guy who's just taking advantage of the rules.
The rule, yeah.
Embiid's a flopper.
JoJo's got a little nastiness with him. I'm gonna tell you that right now. I don't have a problem with the big fella. And if I'm playing with him or I'm coaching him or an executive, the more times I get my defense set because he is going to the free throw line, we know significantly it gives you a better opportunity to be a good defensive team. So I'm all for him and what he's doing. However, yeah, you might question he's getting fouled. How can he get knocked down with a guy like our size? Okay, all right. Okay, I'll give you that. However, the big fella's got a little nastiness with them. And let me tell you this, Mo. I've seen him go back at guys he didn't like the way you fouled him. Okay. Okay, Mo. And the comfort of this podcast is one thing. Down there with a 300-pound man with that size, well, you're going to think about it, Mo. And he'll let you know now if he don't like the way you fouled him.
I mean, I'm going to agree. Mo, I agree with you on this. This is a big playoff season for Joel Embiid.
Now that
I agree with you on that. Because
100%.
now can he at least get to the conference finals? Again, we are almost a third of the way through the season. They can challenge, in my opinion, they should challenge to be there this year.
Well, they should be challenging for the NBA title this season.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, but I'm saying, first they got to make the next step.
Would you say conference finals for sure?
Yes, exactly. That's what I'm saying. They can challenge. Their next step is getting to the conference finals.
Yes.
And once we get into the conference finals, okay, now let's go ahead and take the next step. But they got to get over that mental hurdle. He does of that. It's second round and out.
Yes.
Yeah, and they still have pieces to make a move, because a lot of times you look at their shot distribution, it's Embiid and Maxey doing the heavy lifting. They still have the assets and the picks to go out there and acquire maybe a third complementary piece if Tobias Harris isn't stepping up to do that. But yeah, I think he's just got to learn that if he doesn't get those foul calls in the playoffs, you got to figure it out then, because we see the same thing over and over again. I'm not saying it will never change. I'm just saying I want to see it change because younger in his career, he was one of my favorite players to watch. When he was first coming to the league, he's showing off the post moves. He's going strong to the hoop. He was one of my favorite players to watch. And now when I watch him, I just shake my head and I just think, come on, man.
I would say this, what I see a little difference in him this year, and I know we're spending a lot of time here with him, but his body language with his teammates, at least early on in the games I've watched, is better. And he's, it's almost like he's trying to become a little more of a vocal leader, more of an example leader as well. And I think if that continues throughout the regular season, I think that will transfer into the playoffs and be one of those intangible things that people don't talk about a lot, but could be helpful to not only his personal cause, but the Sixers cause at large.
He had an interesting comment this week in the media where he said, and I'm paraphrasing here, that you can't win playing isolation basketball. And I thought that was a fascinating take from him. Because Joe, as we know, he's one of the better players who control and do all the things with his comments, and he's very clever with that. But I thought it was a fascinating take by him based on everything that has happened. And he has, Scott, I think he's really done a terrific job of leading this franchise, minus a really good player. Okay, James Harden is whatever you think of James Harden is a really good player. You can see what they've been doing recently there in with the Clippers. But I thought it was a fascinating take because it took some thought for him to say whatever he meant. You can take whatever he meant. Some people said it was a dig. Players, over the years, they figured out no one can win a championship alone. Scott,
he can't win it alone. He needs the referees.
Yes, and Mo needs the referees, as you can see.
Man, I hate the referees. Get him out of here.
But I thought it was an interesting thing that he said this week. So, but yeah, I like JoJo. He's having another phenomenal season, but I agree with you guys. I think it's time for them to, at the very least, get to the conference finals this year.
Absolutely. Well, the final matchup of Christmas Day is the Phoenix Suns hosting the Dallas Mavericks, which is always a good matchup given their history. You know, in the playoffs, they had that series where the Dallas Mavericks made that huge comeback and went on to win, and all-time meltdown in Game 7. But Chris Paul's no longer with the Suns. Devin Booker still is. I don't know which version of the Suns we're going to get, seeing as their health is so questionable. We don't know which three of their stars are actually going to be healthy and in the lineup for it. But how are you looking at this one? Because the Mavericks had a very strong start to the season. They're still up there in the mix in the Western Conference. How are you looking at this matchup?
Phoenix is not playing well right now, if you're asking me. They're not consistent. They're not physical enough. And look, they've got two terrific talents in Kevin Durant and Devin Booker. But you need more. The role players need to play with more consistency, play with more force. I think the more physical team will win that game on Christmas Day. I'm going to get a slight edge, on the road to the Mavericks. I really like how obviously Luka is playing well enough to definitely be in the MVP conversation. There's no question about that. But I like that they're getting contributions from various other guys on that team. Tim Hardaway coming off the bench, it can be very explosive. The young kid from Duke, Derek Lively, has been a huge addition to that team. He gives them a live threat at the rim. He's good at protecting the rim on the defensive side of the ball. He can play in an up and down pace when they need to get up and down. So I kind of like some of the things that Dallas has been doing. I think they are playing a little bit better at this time. The Suns, though, have to figure this out pretty quickly. I don't
3-7 in the last 10.
Yeah, and I don't expect that
Bradley
Beal will be back anytime soon either. And that's, we haven't seen that group together. And I'm sure that's what everybody is saying around there in Phoenix. Well, wait till we get all three together, and then we need to have them together for 20, 25 games to allow them to learn one another.
They have them together for about 20, 25 minutes before.
Exactly. And so, will that even happen this season? That's a legitimate question if you ask me. Can you get 25 straight games out of those three to really see what you have? Again, that's not going to increase their physicality, but it will give you three guys that can score from all levels of the floor, attacking the rim, mid-range, three-point shooting, and, that will be difficult to defend. Without Bradley in there now, like I said, you can decide, okay, who are we going to key in on a little more? Is it going to be Devin or is it going to be Kevin? And then see what other, we'll get somebody else to step up and try to beat us. And right now, Eric Gordon had some games early in the year, but I haven't seen him step up as much here in recent times.
It's still interesting to me that they went and got Bradley Beal, because with Kevin Durant and Devin Booker, you've got enough star power there. I would have just looked at building out the rest of the roster with better depth than what they currently have. But I guess when you go back and watch the playoffs from last season, there's a lot of times if Booker was being doubled and KD's getting a lot of attention from the defense, they're hitting the corners, hitting the Josh Okogis of the world, who would then miss these wide open threes. So they wanted a third scoring option. However, that doesn't account for what Josh Okogie offered them on the defensive end. And Bradley Beal at this stage of his career is not a great defender. So they're still going to end up having to play those guys in some of those minutes. And it's really interesting to me, especially since their new ownership came in, kind of this hunt for stars rather than building out a more balanced roster. But BJ, how are you looking at this Christmas Day matchup?
Well, in looking at these teams, the Phoenix Suns, I go back and forth with them. I clearly love their talent. Kevin Durant, since he came into the league, he's had a Hall of Fame career. Devin Booker suddenly has stepped up into an elite category as a scorer. a player that is a very efficient scorer. You know, he plays within 3 dribbles or less, terrific mid-range player. But, you know, guys, you know, roster construction is a real thing. And Scott has spent the last 20 years trying to figure out, sometimes you look at the numbers and you start looking at stars and you look at all of the accolades and the things. But the real talent of this as an executive is putting the pieces together where it fits. As a player ages, when I look at this roster and Kevin Durant, one of the things I don't like as you age is you start playing against players who weigh significantly more than you. You know, Kevin Durant is, without question, he's a 7-footer. However, playing against guys who are 20, 30, 40 pounds bigger than you every single night, I think takes a toll on you, especially as you age in this league. And Kevin Durant as a 4, man, can he do it? Absolutely. Will he do it? Without question. However, every single night, him taking that beating and that hit and absorbing that level of physicality, I think is going to be a problem as we get into the season. It just wears you down. The experiment of putting Devin Booker, who we know is an elite player, as a scoring guard in this league, I think is going to wear him down. So I think those players, in my mind, I've watched them now. And Mo, you know, I like to wait for around 25 games to say, that's my 2 and 3. And then I got to build around that. Now, with both of those players, what's incredible is that they're both versatile enough to play other positions and be elite at other positions, which is a bonus. Kevin Durant is a bonus. He can play the 4 and he can play small ball 5 because of his size. However, to protect him and where he's at physically, I want to kind of get him through this season without having to take the pounding and do the things of an interior player on a consistent basis, right? I would rather have him playing against Michael Porter Jr. for 25, 30 minutes other than Aaron Gordon, because you're going to see that level of player as you advance in the playoffs. So get him through this so that he has an advantage, so that when it's time to do that, I'm not sure what this experiment is going to do. What I do know, guys, is that you need a downhill player. And right now, I don't see a lead guard for them that can initiate the offense consistently, get them organized on both sides of the ball, and play downhill. I just don't see that with this team. I see 2 elite scorers, but I don't see a team right now where all of a sudden they're clicking and you're saying that team could be really good if.
Yeah.
I see the individual talent, but I don't see the togetherness as a group where everyone kind of knows their space, where to operate. Kevin Durant is just that good. I mean, you can just put him anywhere and he'll figure it out. However, with Kevin Durant comes the expectations of saying he should be a player that potentially can take you to at least the conference finals and beyond. And I don't see that as is right now with this group. Now, I know we're going to say Bradley Beal. However, Bradley Beal is a scorer. I don't see him being a lead guard as well. So I think right now, the construction of the roster probably, even though they haven't played, because those guys, in my opinion, are both playing out of position. And I think
they're trying to make Devin Booker the point guard now.
Yeah,
he's
and
done
I
a
just
good
don't
job of
know.
it, to be fair, but it's not his natural instinct of how he plays, right? You know, he's great catching the ball in the mid-range, coming off curls, or maybe even posting up smaller guards. It's going to be interesting. Only time will tell. But Christmas is around the corner. That means, man, the next few months are going to fly by. We're going to be right into the playoffs before you know it. So we just got to enjoy the ride while we're here. Appreciate you both. Wishing you both and your families a very happy holidays. And to all of our amazing listeners, appreciate you guys rocking with us all year long. We'll be back in a couple of days. Don't worry, we ain't going anywhere. But appreciate you guys. And if you want to give us a Christmas gift, make sure you leave a 5-star review on the Spotify app or the Apple Podcast app, or even in the YouTube comments. Feel free to share the podcast with your friends. We appreciate you. Make sure you're subscribed and stay locked in. Enjoy your Christmases. Enjoy your holidays, however you celebrate, especially if you're in Miami. Hope you enjoy celebrating.
Yes, and, Merry Christmas to everybody.
Hopefully my Christmas wish of Embiid stopping flopping comes true this year. But if not, we'll go again next year. And until next time, my good people, get buckets.